What is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake, Fantasy Headliners. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there. Today we're talking about players with falling ADPs, right? Everybody's looking for a sale. A lot of people go to stores, they try to find things on the cheap. Well, fantasy football is no different. The only difference is, are these guys even worth that cheaper price? Is there a reason that the ADPs are falling? So that's what we're going to talk about a few players here today. Before I get into the list of guys that I got, quick reminder, Headliner U has launched here on YouTube. College Football 101 is in session, and if you're interested, there's a link down below in the description. Make sure you head over there, check out the videos that are already popping up there, and subscribe, because there's a lot of great information coming up about all these rookies for the fantasy football season. But now, it's time to talk about a few guys with some falling ADPs, and let's see if we even need to mess with them here in 2021. So let's kick it off, and let's talk about Carson Wentz of now the Indianapolis Colts, because his ADP is falling, which is somewhat puzzling to me, honestly. I mean, he's been ranked higher in past years in Philadelphia than he is now with the Colts. But now he goes to a team with a great offensive line, a solid run game with Jonathan Taylor, and plenty of receiving weapons, and now we like him less? I don't understand that. Now, Wentz gets a bad rap that I really don't think is warranted. It seemed like every single year he was having to deal with injuries to his pass catchers in that offense. I mean, heck, Greg Ward was his number one multiple times throughout his time there in Philadelphia. The offensive line was hit and miss, and the coaching staff absolutely refused to let any resemblance of a run game develop throughout his time in Philadelphia. Now, last year in Philly, yeah, it was ugly, and it showed in his numbers, right? But let's take a look at the prior 3 years to 2020 and see how he performed then. And if you do, you can see he had 81 passing touchdowns to only 21 interceptions, completed over 64% of his passes, made it to the Pro Bowl in 2017, and heck, that year was even an MVP candidate. Not to mention, over that span, had a quarterback rating of 100. That guy is capable of being an NFL quarterback. We've seen it on the field before. But here's the beauty of it all. Do you want to guess who the offensive coordinator was in Philadelphia during that 2017 MVP run for Carson Wentz? Yeah, his new head coach in Indianapolis, Frank Reich. I mean, he knows how to utilize Carson Wentz and the strengths of his games. Now, if you want to bring up injury concerns with Carson Wentz, I totally get it, right? He's missed 12 games over his 5-year career, and he never really looked the same after tearing his ACL. But just look last year what Indianapolis did for Phillip Rivers. Rivers looked washed in 2019, right? With the Chargers, his arm looked dead. Went to Indianapolis, they gave him time behind a solid offensive line to make his reads and his progressions, and we had another solid Phillip Rivers year. Now, is Carson Wentz going to be a locked-in quarterback one this year in 2021? No, probably not. He's going to go undrafted in a lot of one-quarterback leagues, and I understand that. There are 12 other options that are better than Carson Wentz in fantasy football, but if you're in a 2-quarterback league, a superflex league, don't forget about Carson Wentz. His price tag is dropping, and you can get him at a great price. Heck, with the consensus rankings right now, he's outside the top 20 quarterbacks. I'll definitely buy Carson Wentz inside the top 20 here for 2021, a name to watch here throughout the offseason if you're looking for a second quarterback on your roster. And now we move on to running back, and why not bring up Clyde Edwards Elaire? I mean, all that hype from 2020 pushed him up into the first round of drafts. You remember that? Didn't quite work out how you had planned, did it? I mean, the trade for Le'Veon Bell, the usage of Darrell Williams down the stretch, the lack of consistent volume in that backfield, plus you add on top of that, the inability to punch it into the end zone when on the goal line absolutely killed the value of CEH last year. And now the recency bias kicks in, and all the people that were burned by him just last year are more than likely going to look past him here in 2021. In turn, he's kind of going to be like David Montgomery, right? We saw him come out with a lot of hype, didn't live up to expectations, fell in drafts, he found value and helped a lot of people here down the stretch in 2020. That's why I may love CEH in 2021. Something to follow throughout the offseasons. Now, we do have Damien Williams, who should be back, but Darrell Williams and Lev Bell are free agents. Do they return? If not, we could be seeing a whole lot more Clyde Edwards-Elaire in 2021. And don't get me wrong, he looked good at times in 2020. Super smooth runner, quick, didn't shy away from contact, had great visions, great hands in the passing game. He just didn't get the consistent volume. He had 217 total touches just last year in 2020, finished as running back 22.5 PPR. That's right around .72 fantasy points per touch. Even if he doesn't improve that number at all, but can get right around 40 more touches on the season, he's going to be a fringe running back one inside the top 12 running backs. And now you should be able to get him a little bit later in drafts. You don't have to take that big gamble in round one once again. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if once the season comes around, if Damien Williams is more involved, that maybe this ADP of CEH doesn't slip to right around the 4th round or so. And if that's the case, I'm taking that gamble 100%. Heck, he could be my running back 3 at that point. I mean, the down year in 2020 could be a huge benefit to those of us who can get him a little bit later in 2021. Now we move on to the pass catchers. We're going to talk about Kenny Gallaudet because his ADP is on the decline as well. And what could have been in 2020 for Kenny Gallaudet. So much excitement leading up to the season, and the dude just couldn't stay healthy, like, at all. But what does this mean for his future now? He's a free agent, and honestly, this could go a couple different ways. They could just let him walk, right? They could let him walk, he could sign somewhere else, Detroit gets nothing. Or it's possible they could franchise tag him and do a sign and trade deal and at least try to get something for him in return. Would not be surprised if that's the way they go. But regardless, I mean, Kenny Gallaudet is an elite wide receiver capable of huge numbers in the NFL. We still haven't seen his ceiling, right? He's constantly had to deal with Matthew Stafford being injured, quarterbacks literally who have the name Blow in their name. I mean, it's hurt his value over the past couple seasons. This is a wide receiver that was coming off back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons with huge red zone upside on a weekly basis. A lot of people were burned by him because of the injuries, and that's causing the ADP to drop here in 2021. Now, we definitely need to monitor his situation here throughout the offseason, see where he lands, but somewhere that, has a lot of targets available could be absolutely sweet for Kenny Gallaudet here in 2021 at a discounted price. Plus, don't forget, after some of these big-name wide receivers are off the board, maybe you go heavy running back early. Kenny Gallaudet in a great situation, finally healthy, could be a huge boost to your fantasy team here this season. So now we'll wrap it up at the tight end position. We're talking Austin Hooper, Cleveland Browns. Now, Hooper was bound to regress last year, right? After a career year in Atlanta in 2019, but people still came out and overdrafted him, expecting huge numbers in Cleveland. I mean, we talked about it all last offseason. All those weapons in Cleveland was just bound to see less targets going the way of Austin Hooper. Then Odell Beckham went down. Jarvis Landry, he wasn't 100% healthy. Hooper actually saw some volume in Cleveland last year. The problem, he didn't do much with it, right? Had 70 targets for only 46 receptions, 435 yards, and 4 touchdowns. But he was second on the team in targets. The time missed by David Njoku throughout the year, Odell Beckham, really benefited Austin Hooper. But they should be back this year, right? They should be, and we know the Browns are going to continue to be a run-first team with Nick Chubb in that backfield. The ADP is going to continue to fall for Austin Hooper because people see this, right? They just didn't want to believe it last season. They saw it then too, but they just expected the money that he was going to make in Cleveland, that he was going to come in and have to be a huge part of that offense. He's really not, and I really don't expect him to be in 2021 either. His ADP may be falling drastically here this year, but honestly, I don't know if it falls far enough for me to really even want to attempt to draft Austin Hooper. The headaches will be there weekly, sure. He may have a game where he goes out, gets 6 catches for 95 yards and 2 touchdowns, and everybody's going to be like, see, I told you about Austin Hooper. Then the dude's going to get like 3 targets over the next 3 weeks combined and totally disappear. That's what I see happening with Austin Hooper. His ADP is declining, and there's reason behind it. More than likely, as of right now, not going to be touching Austin Hooper in 2021. There's a lot of players out there, though, that have falling ADPs. Who are a few of the guys that you're watching here throughout the offseason? I'm curious to see who you guys have your eyes on. Leave it down below in the comment section because we would love to communicate back and forth with you and really interact. That's what this community does, I think, better than anybody else on YouTube. We really involve you, the viewer, in this channel. It's what's helped us grow so quickly, and we greatly appreciate that. Do me a favor, hit that like button. Consider subscribing if you haven't. Hopefully you had a great week this week, and look forward to a great weekend coming up. And hopefully you guys have a great one. We'll talk to you later. Thanks.